Thank you very much.
I
And please, Abby, yeah, thank you. When we finish this class, please give them the link. So students who are absent today, or students who want to see the session again, they can go and see the link. No? Thank you very much. Yeah, great. You see, I've been checking the documents that I've given you. For example, this one that is called First Bimester Unit 1. Yeah, and I was checking the content, and then I was comparing and contrasting with the book, for example, that is called, wait a second, Assessment in the Language Classroom. Yeah. Which I don't know, Abby, have you been able to share the book with the whole class?
Yes.
Do we have this book? Yeah, yes. Okay, thank you. Yeah, great. So it's very important that you guys read the book. This book, Assessment in the Language Classroom, is a libro base, no? It's, yeah, most of the concepts, and also, of course, the questions for quizzes, the questions for the final exam. Okay, also will be from this book. No, we're gonna try and cover as many units as possible. No? But obviously, well, that depends on time. But ideally, you should read all the book. No, the book. I know that in one semester, with only 5 hours and online, it's going to be difficult, no? But as you start reading and getting ideas and getting examples, because the book gives you this then examples of tests, activities where you can analyze tests and different forms of assessment. So I hope and I'm sure that many of you will be interested in learning more, and so go ahead and read more, no? And if you find something interesting, don't hesitate, no? Do a little research. You know that assessment is of utmost importance in teaching, because it goes hand in hand with teaching. So, well, but the point is that looking at this document, Unit 1, I mean, First Bimester Unit 1, I try to make a little recap, you know, of the concepts in the book, but there are also some other topics that are not directly in the book, but are also relevant. No? For example, types of testing is not in the book. It's not in the book, at least in Unit 1. No? But it's in the summary, no? In the summary, and other little things. No? Well, the point is that read everything. No? I'm going to make sure that the next summary of Unit 2 is better elaborated, and that it goes in accordance with the book, no? With the assessment in the language classroom. Yeah, so just that I wanted to draw your attention to that that thing. Okay, now I remember that in our last session, I told you to do something for homework. Yeah, let's call it homework or assignment if you like. Yeah, and so basically it has to do with forms of assessment, and especially I think it's with formal and informal assessment, right? Great, and so I would like to ask you if, okay, first I'd like to have a volunteer, please, who can tell us, well, first a little recap, no? una pequeña revisión ahí, a little recap. Okay, so open question. What is assessment for you guys?
Sorry, Prof. Would you mind repeating your question? I couldn't
Yeah,
hear it
sure.
well.
Yeah, question number one is, what is assessment?
Well, assessment from, I like the definition that the man gave in the video, in, that,
Okay, yeah,
in
good.
the document, that it was a process ongoing every day in class. Things so simple like asking a student if he understood the topic, or if he could mention some interesting points about the lesson, is a kind of assessment, because you are not evaluating, you are ensuring that your students are engaged to the class.
Exactly. Okay, great. Yeah, I think it's pretty much what assessment is, no? And you're right, you know, what the guy says in the video is really accurate, I could say, no? I could say. Right. So of course assessment is different from testing. No? Well, testing, if you think about it, testing could be a part, no, an important part of assessment, no? You could say that, for example, some that tests, for example, are formal assessments, no? Formal assessments. But of course, you cannot say the other way around, no? That assessment is testing, no? Yeah. So yeah, so basically assessing is making sure, like you said, no, ensuring that your students are understanding the topic, no, the topic, and it's a process that should happen every day, no, maybe not every minute, every 10 minutes, but during the class, no, there should be some form of assessment, informal usually. Great. And so another student, please say, what is testing?
Prof, maybe we can say testing is a process in which we assign scores to our students without caring about if we really learned something. Because, well, into the video, a teacher says, if I want to test to some of my students, they go to the computer and maybe they solve a test, but that doesn't tell me how much they learn or not. So I think is the main difference with assessment.
Great. Yes, great. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, testing doesn't necessarily tell you or inform you, no, his current, the student's current position in terms of learning, no, because there's no, how can I say, maybe there's no maybe analysis. I mean, for you, no, there's no chance for you to know if the processes going in his mind correspond to the processes that should be taken to complete the test, no, or to carry out the test. So one good example is this. For example, a student, no, can take a test, for example, that is multiple choice, no? For example, today it's very common. Students go online and they do multiple types of tests. And most of them, because they're practical, are multiple choice, no? Or they are, I don't know, true or false or matching. And believe me, a person that knows nothing, no, whatsoever, can sit at a computer, and if you put all the answers A, If you put A, or B, without even reading the questions, you can get at least 20 or 25%. Right? But that doesn't mean that the student really knows a quarter. No? Si saca 25, it doesn't mean that the student knows a quarter of the contents of the subject. No, the student knows nothing. But the fact that he sits and only fills in the blanks, no? Or sits and does the test, doesn't mean that he really understands, or he has learned something. Right. Okay. So yeah. So that's basically about what these two teachers discuss in the video, no? In the first video about assessing and testing. Yeah. And now, what about going on to the next topic, the formal assessment? No, formal assessment. What is the definition first? Formal assessment. Sorry, informal first. So, do we have a volunteer here?
Professor, I
Yes.
found a definition about informal assessment that said that are those spontaneous forms of assessment that can easily be incorporated in the day-to-day classroom activities, and that measures the students' performance and progress. Informal assessments are content and performance-driven.
Exactly. Yeah. Great. That's exactly the definition. Yes. No. There's no more to say. There's nothing else to say about the concept. No. So, and Chris, can you think of some examples of informal assessment?
Okay, some examples are here in the definition are the checklist, observation, portfolio, rating scale, time sampling, event sampling, and anecdotal record.
Can you repeat? Can you repeat the list, please?
Okay, is
Informal. No? I'm
checklist.
asking about informal. Informal.
Okay, the informal is checklist, observation, portfolio, rating scale, time sampling, event sampling, and anecdotal record.
Anecdotal record. Yeah, because for example, portfolios. No? Portfolios are more like a kind of formal assessment. No, formal. Informal are those that happen like you said, no, spontaneously, basically, no. For example, you go ahead and you ask a student, you tell a student how to improve the pronunciation of some words. So the student tries again, okay, and you help him, right? And so in that sense, for example, you are not planning, no? You don't know before class. You can never know what the student is going to need help because you don't prepare that. So it's spontaneous, no? So, for example, I would put, for example, in informal, for example, comments that you make on the student's performance. You can ask a student to maybe interpret something, for example, a graph. No? You present a picture and you say, oh, well, what do you see in this picture? Do you see anything that is related to or is similar to what you have in your house? And the student says, yeah, I see for example, a computer. I have a computer at home. And so you say, oh, you have a computer, great. And what kind of computer do you have? So that happens spontaneously. No? You don't plan to ask those questions or to ask the student to reflect on something, no? Right. Whereas the examples that you have given, for example, portfolios, for me, they are more in the category of formal, no? Because you give the students time to prepare, to categorize the activities in the portfolio. If you tell them to do to make a report on something, it's more formal because you're giving them time, you're giving some rules, some instructions, right? If you ask them to write a report, the same. An oral presentation, the same, because because then with the oral presentation, you're going to be able to take notes and of course, depending on the situation, right? You can change, or you can take a formal assessment as an opportunity to have, you know, some informal assessment. You know? For example, asking a student to reflect on the questions of a quiz. You know? You say, why did you write true in this question? No? And so the student begins to explain or talk. No? And so as long as it happens naturally, then it's informal. No? And formal is everything that you plan. No? You plan it in ahead. And y que tiene el propósito, the purpose of measuring something. No? Measuring. For example, when you ask him to do an oral presentation, usually you grade. No? Por general se califica the oral presentation. Because if you don't give them a grade, sometimes the students say, oh, well, it's not graded, so I can say anything, and it's not graded. So for formal assessment usually has this purpose, of measuring and determining proficiency or mastery of the topic. Formal assessment is more like an appraisal for achievement. O sea, está diseñado más para medir si el alumno adquiere, achievement, si alcanza un conocimiento, whereas the informal, it has more the nature of giving feedback, very friendly, very casual, etc. No? Yeah, so in this regard, we could say that, for example, tests are a formal assessment. No? All tests are formal assessment, but of course, not all assessments are tests. No, obviously, yeah. Okay, so in examples of formal, we have quizzes, portfolios, presentations, reports, tests, no? Unit test, final test, those things. Yeah, great. Thank you, Chris. No? Thank you, Chris. Well, in the last part of the video, they explain about the differences. No? Can you tell us about the differences between informal and formal? Somebody, no? And with this, we finish the talking about the videos. No? Please, so I need somebody to tell us about the differences between formal and informal assessment.
Well, informal, yeah. Informal assessment is something spontaneous, something that is something that goes without a planification, and it's like it's done to keep track of if our students have been paying attention to the class and something like that. And formal assessment is something that has been planned and has a clear objective, and
yes.
And it's done in order to measure the progress in a lapse of time.
Exactly, in a period of time, over a period of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Over a period of time.
Yes. Great. Yeah. That clarifies, a little more the differences. No, I made some notes while I was watching the video. For example, that informal assessment is flexible and dynamic. No, so it's not something that is pre-fixed. No, so no es fijo. So depending on the students or the day or the topic, you adapt it, you change it. It's flexible. One day you can try something, and then you can go to another student, etc. No? Informal assessment is also individualized. No? Okay, so depending on the students that have problems, you go to a group, you go to another group. Okay, you find someone that has difficulty, you help him overcome his doubts, his difficulties. Informal assessment is also ongoing, no? So it happens all the time, every day, along the course, no? Or the semester, digamos. Yeah, the school year could be. Whereas formal, no, is the opposite, no? Yeah, formal assessment is static, no? Static. So if you have a test, you don't change the test, no? You administer the test like that, no? But and you don't go around changing questions just to make it easier for one particular student who has some form of some kind of difficulty, right? Formal is standardized, no? So when you make a test, you make sure that the test is kind of a standard, considering everyone's situation. No? If you say 20 minutes, it's 20 minutes for everybody. It's not 20 for A and 20 and 25 for student B. No? Yeah, it's standardized. And also, al contrario de formal assessment, no? Unlike informal assessment, which is ongoing, formal assessment is usually episodic. No? It's episodic. It happens after, no, usually after a period of time. For example, you finish unit 1, and then you elaborate, you know, some kind of test, some kind of paper or something for formal assessment. But you don't give formal assessments. You don't give tests or quizzes every day, no, because that is not pedagogical, no. Okay, and well, I'm sure you can refer to other differences, but basically those three are maybe the most important. Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, so I encourage you. I see that you guys have seen the video, and videos are maybe a more fun way to learn. They are more practical. If you choose a good author, no, of the video, no? If you choose, for example, those two videos are especially the first video is really good because those are American teachers working, in the teaching field. The second is more like I think that it's a student, you know, student from university, from college, attempting to explain the concepts. No? But it's always better to watch a video from, for example, from university professors, more academic. And so in YouTube, you have lots of videos, no? But not only in YouTube, you look at other, if you find other interesting websites, yeah, don't hesitate, no? This kind of videos can be really, really useful. Great, and so what about our next, yeah, so second thing on the list is, yeah, first I want to talk about types of testing, which is in the document of first bimester unit 1, right? And after that, I'm going to ask Abby. Abby has prepared some slides and to show to you, no? About 1.2, which is types of testing, and 1.3, which is I don't remember, but I think it's about quality assessing or something, if I'm not quality. Exactly. I have types of testing number 2, number 3. I have the document here. Yes. The purpose of assessments and all. Well, great. And so, yeah, great. So I don't know if you guys have read I'm going to ask Abby to please share the document on the screen, please. And you can show us page 2. Page 2 is the difference in testing. Page 2, yeah, page 2 is types of testing. Types of testing, yeah. And so I don't know if you read the article, great, because it's going to be easier for you. If not, no. Either way, please go to page 2, 1.2 types of testing. Yeah. So what types of testing do you know? Or what do you think the types of testing are? No? Anybody?
Diagnostic
Yes.
test.
Diagnostic is one example. Yes. You've been in the university for 3, 4 years, no? I'm sure that you have been given diagnostic tests. No? You know what they are. To make sure that you know the content. For example, los niveles de inglés, level 1, level 2, 3, 4, 5. Usually, the kind of test that you receive that the teacher administers to know if you have been able to understand the contents of that level is, for example, an achievement test. You know? So that's another type, achievement test. Yeah. Can you name 1 or 2 more types of tests?
Prof, maybe it's like I don't know how's the correct name, but it's like a final test. You know, for example, the last semester we have to take a final exam, and it was
Yeah.
it was multiple choice and those things you mentioned before. So I think it's
Yeah.
something similar.
Yeah. So usually that kind of test is conceived as an achievement test, no? So ese que sirve to the teacher, no, to get an idea or to know with numbers, no, to know if the student can be promoted because he has understood the topics, no. And for example, si la nota es, for example, 7 or 70%, so the student takes the test and sees, well, okay, if this student has 70, right, and then the rest of the other grades, for example, participation, etc., is around 7, then the teacher can decide to promote the student. So that's a achievement test, right? But final exams are in the same category. Yeah. Another test that is very common, and I'm sure that you have taken at some point, is placement tests. Placement tests are very common, for example, when you want to determine if a student belongs in level 1, in level 2, advanced, intermediate, beginner, etc. No? So you give the student a placement test, no? And see where they are, no? In for example, in English, no? It's a muy común placement test. So we have placement test, we have diagnostic test, no?
Another one could be those that are international tests. I think
Yes.
the name is standardized test.
Yeah, they're usually standardized, no? And the name is a proficiency test. No?
Yes.
Proficiency test. So we have placement, diagnostic, achievement, proficiency. Proficiency is what we're going to see one by one because it's also in the document. But proficiency is a type of exam that measures if a student has the capability, no? Y digamos the proficiency in, for example, in the language, no? And it's not related to the content of a book, or to the pensum or the curriculum of a certain university or school. It's only a general. It's like a general culture. No, it's not exactly culture, but it's a general ability. Also, sometimes it includes some aspects of the culture, right? And in which can determine if a student, for example, is ready, for example, to travel abroad and study in another country. No? And one example is, for example, the TOEFL exam or the FCE exam. No? FCE, TOEFL, IELTS. No? They're usually international, like you said. International, tienen una escala, no? They have a scale, and to be accepted, to be promoted, you need a certain percentage, no? You need a certain percentage. Yeah, great. Okay, so so this topic is not new, no, for you. Only that maybe you didn't study this formally in this sequence, no? But you know what a placement test, diagnostic, achievement, and proficiency are, no? So quickly, let's see how much time we have. Well, we have 5 minutes, yeah. Let's see how far we can get. And so when I finish, when the session finishes, Avi, when you open, when I open the second session, you prepare. In the meantime, you prepare your presentation. Yep.
Sure, Prof.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So if you go back to the document, if you go to page 2, no, and we can quickly yeah, over there, right there. Yeah. So we have this. Now there are 4 reasons for testing, and so therefore, por esa razón, there are 4 types, no, or 4 categories of tests. And so they are, for example, the first category is placement tests. Now maybe you can organize this this document. Pueden editarlo, for example, put the first category in a separate paragraph because it's another topic, no? And so you put there, click there and space, no? Yeah, for example, the first category is placement tests, no? Whose purpose, no? Cuyo propósito is to place students in the right class according to their level. Right, I underlined some important bits of information here. Yeah. Yeah, of course, when we see in the next paragraph, no, it says that for this kind of test, students, I mean the teachers or the evaluators should indicate, no, the material, no, that they will follow is challenging for the student, no? Neither too easy nor too difficult, no? So it's like the typical placement exam for the university, no? It shouldn't be too easy because then students go to level 5, no? And then in level 5, the teacher realizes that the student doesn't know that much, no? It shouldn't be too difficult because then everybody should be placed in level 1. And then when the teacher is working with level 1, most students are getting bored because the topics are too easy. So usually this test has to be elaborated by experts, no, who use the best criteria, sorry, to propose this type of questions. Okay. We have this comment here in the next paragraph. We have, however, the existing standardized proficiency tests are usually used because they're very practical. No? sometimes you can use them. Well, I mean, they are used very, very well. I don't know if it's very common in maybe in some schools or some type of schools, but they can be used because they provide information about students' abilities as well. No? So if you are working in one of these schools, these private schools, maybe if you have access or if you are allowed to, you can give the students a placement test, no? And see and collect information about where they are exactly in, especially in the functions of the language or in the that you are going to teach, ¿no? Entonces puede tener mucha buena información. Right. Yeah, and we finished this paragraph here with this first type here with this, no? That the information that we get from placement tests can be used to assign students to classes at different levels, no? Well, unfortunately, in schools, in primary, secondary, this type of tests are not used, no? Because the students are not really placed in levels, no? All the students that are in Primero de Básica, they receive the same program, no? And the students in sexto curso or in 12th grade all receive the same instruction and the same curriculum, the same program. So